Failure
I
to
almost
launch.
recorded just on my computer. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Embracing AI, the pros and the possibilities. Now that we've got the title card out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and stop the share so you can see all of us here. For those of you that have not met me yet, I am Michael Hanley. I am the course owner for Project and Portfolio 2. I am with Professor Andrew Raut, who is the course owner for uh, Intro to Post Production, and I'm with Professor Randy Baker, who is the course owner for Composition Visual Design. I am
I'm
going to
just
be,
I'm just renting mine. I don't actually own it.
you're just renting yours.
Renting it?
I've
Is it
had to
rent to
say
own?
course owner because there's so many different things for course directors, course owners, course primary, course secondary, course grader. It
Wrangler,
just gets
maybe that would
insane.
be course Wrangler.
Course Wrangler. I like that one on here. So basically, I'm going to be moderating. I'm going to, once again, for those that have come in, please, if you have a question, just type it into the chat box, Q:, and type your question. We're going to run this like a live stream. We're each going to take a little bit of a section on AI. So I'm expecting there will be some questions going on. But each of us will field things as we go. So let me give a brief introduction to what we are doing here. I'm going to go Oppenheimer and go. I've got a prepared statement. So here we go. Welcome to the latest edition of DCBuzz, your ultimate source for all things digital cinematography at Full Sail University. In this exciting installment, we embark on a journey into the future of filmmaking, where art and technology collide to shape the landscape of independent film production. Our spotlight today is on a groundbreaking and transformative force in the industry, artificial intelligence. As we delve into the realm of AI, we uncover its multifaceted role in reshaping the way independent filmmakers craft their narratives, visualize their story, and bring their visions to life on the silver screen. AI, once relegated to the realm of science fiction, has now firmly established itself as an indispensable tool for the filmmaker's arsenal, revolutionizing every aspect of the creative process. Written by ChatGPT 3.5, free version, retrieved September 21st, 2023, and it goes on for 5 more paragraphs. This is one of my things that I think is happening with AI and a lot of stuff that's going on is the fact that people basically are looking at it to be a source that can be used to help them. But from the storytelling standpoint, we have to look at the idea that it is just a tool. It is just how we as the storyteller are going to be using it. And I, as the storyteller, wrote this out using the following prompt. Write an introduction for Full Sail University Digital Cinematography DCBuzz on the subject of AI uses in independent film production. That was all I typed in, and it just ran through and gave me this literally what I'm going to call is a verbal dump. But there were some things in there that were useful for what I wanted to do, but you will notice I credited my source. So before I continue on with what we're going to be doing as the moderator here, I need to make the introduction official. Professor Randy Baker is from Composition Visual Design. Professor Raut is from Intro to Post Production. Did you each want to take about 1 minute and introduce yourself for those that don't know you yet before we jump in?
Sure. Go ahead, Andy.
Oh, okay. Well, certainly for all of you who I've already had in class, you know my story. Yes, I'm Andrew Raut. I'm the, I guess, architect, designer, primary instructor for Intro to Post Production. I've been in this crazy business for about 40 years. I've had just an amazing career as a music composer, record engineer, producer, production audio, basically all things audio. And I'm still a very, very active freelancer, which is a wonderful thing, because what is cool about many of your professors is we're active freelancers, and we bring a lot of experiential wisdom back to our classroom. For those who have had me, you know that. But it's like, some of the things we're going to talk about, I find very, very important in staying relevant and competitive, and I just have a passion for all things audio. And I've been a college professor simultaneously for, gosh, over 20 years. So that's a little bit about my story, and I'm sure more will come out as we have more dialogue about the future, and how things that we're very passionate about will affect the work we do and the teaching we do. So that's my thing. So Randy, who
My
are
name's
you?
Randy. My name's Randy Baker, as my friend Robin calls me, Randy Baker Troublemaker. And I teach composition and visual design. Like Andy, I'm still working in the industry. I've been in the industry for over 45 years, and I still shoot probably 2 or 3 days a week and on other people's projects. And then I have a whole group of projects that I do on my own. So I'm constantly, surrounded by it. That's all I do, it seems like, and I'm looking forward to someday retiring. But in the meantime, I'm just having so much fun. It's kind of hard to go away. I'm a passionate instructor. If you've had me as an instructor before, you've been through hell, as Mike says. Your brain's been blown, and he's there just to put it back together again. And so I'm really passionate about all things, film and television, including AI. And my whole hope for you guys coming into this night is that you understand the importance of being able to stay ahead of this. This is going to disrupt every industry that we know moving forward, and it's moving so fast. I was saying this last night to Alex's intro to film and video. By the time they graduate in 2 years from now, AI is going to be a totally different animal. You have to look at it. We're at the very beginning stages of AI, even though it was introduced in the 40s and 50s. But the whole thing with Chat GPT, making it more of a usable tool. Last year, we were just saying it's the fastest growing software of all time right now. And so it's like, buckle up, because it's going to be a rough ride over the next 10 years here as we do this. And it's moving so fast. And if you are out there listening to what's going on and kind of looking at how everybody is jockeying, and this is the beginning of it. Everybody is jockeying. We're talking the big players: Intel, Microsoft, Apple, Meta, all those guys. They're still trying to figure out what the hell is going on and how they're going to integrate AI into their business models. And then you got Elon Musk, who is saying, okay, I need to hurry up and get us to Mars soon, because AI is moving so fast that it's going to destroy the Earth sooner than I thought. So you got all kinds of stuff out there. But for us in the business, it's almost what I'm going to talk a lot about tonight is how much AI is already involved in everything you do. You may not know it, but it's there. It's almost ubiquitous now. And a year from now, we're going to revisit this and look at it, and it's going to be a totally different ball game from the way it is. So I'm pretty excited that you guys are here, and I think you're going to find this pretty interesting. And the goal is for you to really understand how to stay ahead of this and start integrating it and using it as a tool.
Okay, so one of the things I want to make sure very clear here for what's going on. Last month, we had a DCBuzz, which I'm sorry I wasn't able to attend, but it was on basically the issues of what's going on with the strike, different things, how does it affect you? And as of 4 hours ago, the Washington Post reported that they may be finally wrapping up the writer's strike, hopefully, and they wanted to get that done first, because they could get writers back to work while they negotiate with the other talent, because it starts with the script. It starts with the writing. And that's where I'm basically starting from, is the idea that it is the writer that is starting to prompt a little bit more on the questions of AI in terms of the what is it being used for in a, how should I put this, in a sort of secretive way. Last night when I was in one of my Zoom sessions, I said we were talking about AI tonight, and I don't know if he's here or not, but student, as soon as I said AI, said, I consider AI cheating. But I hadn't said what part of AI I was going to be talking about. I just said AI. So there's this blanket idea of AI either being this great thing or this thing that's cheating. And what I want to basically let a lot of people know about the promise and the possibilities of AI is the fact that we've just been marching towards this for a long time. The only reason why we hear about it more is because we're all really interconnected. But there's been a thing around since the early 90s where two professors from UCLA did a story theory class and created a piece of software called Dramatica that literally was put in character prompts, location, put in the theme, put in all of this different stuff, and it would spit out your outline. Now, it did rely on the writer, of course, and this is one of the things that a lot of people might not know about unless somebody tells them or they do a research on it, because it's something that is out there, but it's only for Windows and it's not compatible with any Mac OS in the last like 5 years. So it's one of those ones that's kind of out there that's been being used. But when you look at it, if you do the research on AI, what really everybody is saying on the writing side is they use it to fight writer's block. Everything you go and look at with the writing side, you will see something that always says writer's block on there. How do you develop it? How do you do this? How do you do that? And it's always the start of the prompts. And I have to tell you something. I basically wound up having a situation where I decided to test the latest version of ChatGPT for this thing. 3.5.4.0 is the paid version. And I went, okay, I'm going to do what I've been hearing everybody else do. And I'm going to tell it to write a script in screenplay, final draft style of the Screenwriter's Bible by Dave Trottier, and give me a script, a narrative final draft formatted script of two barbecue chefs arguing about how to make ribs. That was the prompt. For some reason, it kept setting it in a restaurant. The two people were partners, and they kept trying to make one of them a French chef. And I kept going through typing in specific prompts. I looked at it and went, no, that kind of works, but no, this is what I want to change. And I typed in my change, and I put in the next thing, typed in my change, put in the next thing, typed in my change. And Stefan, good question. I'll get to that in a minute. This is something I can cover here. And I kept typing in the prompts, and this might answer a little bit of Stefan's question you just put in. How do you recognize if a script is authored by human or AI? I finally got so frustrated, I had to literally explain to ChatGPT, these are pit masters and they're making Texas style barbecue. Okay, so because it had written all the other stuff and I just given it the prompts, it was still sticking. It was like it put in its heels and said, okay, I'm still going to do this. And because the argument was about style, it finally gets to exterior barbecue festival day, describes the characters, gets there, but in a line of dialogue, because it's supposed to be the argument how to make these ribs, the AI actually had one character say, Texas style ribs do not belong at a barbecue festival. Take that in for a second. They don't belong at a barbecue fest. That's what I went, thank you. That just showed the thing. But what was happening was, and what we're going to talk about is, I didn't go back and start with a new premises. I didn't go back and start with a new premise, with a new idea. I just kept trying to change things and going through. And basically, what I was doing was I was rewriting the script. I might as well have at a certain point just gone, Rip, give me that. And you gave me a little bit of my start, and I'm good to go. And that's where the AI for a lot of writers is going, is they want to be able to come up with the same things as Dramatica. They want to come up with character, issues, plot lines. They want to do all the stuff on here. But the key to it is recognizing the story. That's the thing, is recognizing. That's why when we talk about it on a school level and on an independent level, we're not talking about the studios and the issues that the writers are having about AI, because that's just one piece of a very large puzzle. We're talking about that you, as a beginning filmmaker, as a person who is on this cutting edge that Randy's been talking about, is basically going to start turning to a tool. You've got a camera, you've got a microphone. These are all different tools. I have different tools in my office. And there was a video that I looked up that basically said how to have AI do a screenplay. And the guy was typing in prompts, and literally the AI was spitting out the hero's journey. Literally, it was bullet points of the hero's journey. The hero needs to have this, the hero needs to have that. They're going to have the villain, that thing. But what the big difference was, is that the guy typed in 3-act structure and 5-act structure. That was the only difference he really did, and it did it in bullet points, expecting that the writer was now going to take the recommendations and was going to work it out on their own. So that's what I'm kind of throwing out here on the writer side, because that's the, like I said, the beginning is the fact that I look at AI and say, okay, we can use it for prompts, we can use it for a tool, we can use it for writer's block, but we have to be able ourselves to recognize where the errors are, when it's too long, when it's pedantic, when it is something that is just mediocre. Because one of the big things that I saw was this guy on the internet, Tom Scott, who's got like 6 million followers, who does all this geek stuff, computer things, had ChatGPT write his sponsor script for what it was for the sponsor of the video. And it just was repetitive, and he put in comments. And the thing is, he sat there as he was reading it and was kind of smirking when it hit a bad line, when it hit something that was awkward, because he, as the writer, knew he wouldn't have written it that way. And that's what you need to realize on this, as you're listening to Professor Baker and Professor Raut, that you still have to know what you as an independent filmmaker want to do as a storyteller to even be able to begin using these things for your projects. So that's my little AI in a nutshell kind of thing. We recommended we be doing about 15 minutes each and then open up for questions. So with my hitting it with writing, I don't want to go too deep. Who's next?
You want to go, Randy? Or you want me to go?
I can jump in. So
I know Randy's dying to either agree or dispute some of the things I just said.
I agree with everything you say. I just, it's the thing that I'm really interested in trying to share with you guys is how much you're using AI every day, and some of the things that you don't. There are 3 types of AI that, as I kind of look at: generative AI, which is primarily what most of us is using, and then machine learning, which is a little bit different. But generative AI is where you're feeding data to something and it's creating, prompts, as they are called, and you're creating new information based on those prompts. and that draws from a database, and that database is really important. Machine learning is where the machine can actually learn and come up with new prompts on its own based on the learning that it happens. And then quantum neural networks, that's where you tie into these large networks, and it's getting all this information, and then down the road quantum computing and quantum AI and stuff like that, where that's where everybody's going, oh man, it's going to start creating its own feelings and stuff. So those are the three. What we're really interested in here is like, the two variations of that, the generative AI and machine learning. That's what most of what we're doing is all about here. And so it crosses all different, um, avenues and vertical markets in what we do here. That's what we're talking about here. And so you're talking about development and writing and pre-production and production and audio and post-production, including audio post-production and graphic post-production and color correction and distribution and data analytics, and even to the point of, okay, what movies should you watch, and is being suggested by companies like Netflix and Amazon. It covers all of that. And it's every 85%. There was just a research paper put out last week that said 85% of major businesses have already integrated AI into their business structure. And if they didn't, they're too far behind. So what happened recently was this Chat GPT thing, where people, generative AI basically refers to machine learning applications that are capable of creating new data, including text, images, video, and sounds, based on a large data set of which has been trained. And that's, that data set is often the most critical thing when you're talking about AI. Was it Google that introduced their first bot, and within a month they had to shut it down because it was saying, I'm in love with Hitler, and, because it was drawing from the internet. So it had all this good and bad information in it. So the key is controlling that data set. That's number one. The data sets are really important. So that's what I want you to understand. And so learning how to create your own data sets is going to be a big new thing that nobody ever thought about. And you go, okay, how do I get my own data sets? Because what's going to happen, and we're finding this out right now with the lawsuit that just happened with, the major authors with ChatGPT saying, hey, you can't just upload my books into your data set and then use it to create AI. That's copyright infringement. So that's what's happening here. So that's going to be a big dividing line here in the next couple months that you're going to see happen. But already, if you look at Google and Meta and Twitter and all the major social media sites, their plan is to mitigate that by taking responsibility, by taking legal copyright responsibilities if you use their chat tools. Okay, if you use their chat tools. So that's one of the ways they're going to get people to come into that, is because they're going to be offering that as a way to get around that. Most people don't even think about that, but that's really big. And so the other big thing then is, not only do you have to have a good data set, you have to know how to write the right prompts. Okay, prompts are really, really important. It was like Mike was saying, if you don't write the right prompts in there, it can give you all kinds of stuff. But like, I had a good example of like what Mike was talking about. I have a client who's the ADA of the Southeast, the Americans with Disabilities Act, who wanted me to do a video about accessibility to beaches for people with mobility issues. And I was just dreading writing the script, to be honest with you. But I had meetings with him and did a needs analysis and got all the information. And then, so I made a list of all the stuff that they wanted the script to be about. And then I sat down with a version of ChatGPT 4, and I imported that into prompts. And I said, give me a 5-minute script. And it gave me a 5-minute script. I said, give me a 3-minute script with all this data. And it gave me that 3-minute script. And I said, okay, give me a script with a narrator. The same 5-minute script with a narrator, the same 3-minute script with a narrator. Then I said, give me the 5-minute script and a 3-minute script with just voiceover talent. And I said, okay, break that 5-minute script down into individual 2-minute segments that are standalone segments. And that all took me about an hour and a half. And then I shipped all that stuff off to the client and said, here's a really big, broad range of all the information that you gave me that I typed into different variations of this. You pick and choose what you like, send it back to me, and I'll write the script. So that did all the heavy lifting for me. Was it perfect? No, it wasn't perfect, but man, it gave the client, and the client was like, holy crap, how long did this take you? And I didn't say to him an hour and a half. And so in disclosure, a lot of what I did, the research here today, was all Chat GPT. And I'm going to share my screen with you because I want you to see this. And you may not realize this. Share screen, and let me get my screen one up here. First, let me get internet here and bring this in.
You have screen share control, correct?
Yeah, I do. I just have to click on it.
I just want to make sure.
So if I go into I just can't get that screen to come up. Hold on 1 second. Let me just bring this up. If I go into my bring this in, here we go. It's not coming in for some reason. Let me do screen 2 maybe. Stop share, and let me share screen, and I'll share my screen 2. Here we go. Now you can see it says 101 Chat GTP prompts for photographers. Can everybody see that screen?
Yeah, we're seeing it.
Okay, so this was just, and here's a new form of passive income for you. So if you're, I just bought this today for $40. It's 101 Chat GPT prompts for photographers. So if you're wanting to get passive income, we talk about LUTs and stock footage and things like that in our class about creating passive income. This is a whole nother level for this. So you got to learn.
Professor Baker, for those that are early on in the degree, can you explain what can you give a quick definition of what passive income is?
Sure. Passive income is an income stream that you developed, that you're making money 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, whether you're sleeping or eating breakfast or, lounging out by the pool. It's things like, stock footage and stock photography and, stock music, or, writing, selling LUTs, or doing how-to videos on Udemy and places like that. So it's just a passive income stream that once you create the content, then it's up and it's creating money for you. And so there's lots of, and this being able to, and I never thought about this today till I saw this, and I was like, oh, I could do that, And so this is just writing LUTs, okay, or just writing prompts for you, and and there's a whole psychology behind this already that's popping up about different things that you want it to do, and it's not going to be long before people understand this. This is how fast this is growing. This is relatively new, okay. It's not going to be long before filmmakers are going to go, like me, hey, I could write prompts for writing scripts, and then I can sell those prompts, as passive income.
I just need to make something clear here, Professor Baker. This is something you purchased from a
It is, and so that's why I'm only showing you 1 or 2 pages.
Right. That just so, because someone did ask if they could have the document added to the chat. No, this is something that is covered under copyright.
It is.
Stefan, hey, you had to ask. Why not? It's covered under copyright, and the material that he is showing is basically for educational reasons, but he did purchase it, and he is showing examples on here. We are not paid to promote this paid thing. Yes, Andy, you're familiar with me doing this.
That if you want to pay the $40 for it, you can go there. But the reason I'm showing you this is I've never seen this before. I've been thinking about this for about the last week, and then all of a sudden today it popped up in my mailbox. Hey, buy 101 Chat GPT prompts for photographers. So it's not going to be long before you go 101 Chat GPT prompts for writers, 101 Chat GPT prompts for DPs. You see my point? 101 Chat GPT prompts for editors. So those are things that can be done. So I'm just going to go through some examples here and show you some of the things as I was going through today that I kind of found. This is one of the big things about, it's so ubiquitous. And so the data sets are one of the big things that I want you to understand and go out there and do a little bit more research on. And then also the chat prompts how to do chat prompts. And it's not just for text, but it's also for generating images and videos and sounds and stuff. It's so good. And then the other thing that most of you have never even thought about is AI tools. AI tools are the bomb, And so let me just show you this one. This is Runway. You've probably never heard of Runway, but this is one of the companies that's like changing the industry for the high-end video industry and stuff. And so let me show you their products. Okay, here's their product lines. These are all the products. So what I want to show you here about their products is, if I can click on it and show you this, is look at this. Yeah, you can go, let's see, products, view all magic tools. And if we look at the magic tools, here's all the stuff you can do with this stuff. Okay, Gen 2 text to video, video to video, AI training, text to image, image to image, expand image. You have the capability now of expanding and increasing the definition and the resolution of your images no matter what. Frame interpolation, again, making your images look better, erase and replace. That's common in most of the new Photoshop and Lightroom and things like that. Backdrops, infinite images, image variations, 3D. These are just all tools that are part of a tool set that you can use. You can change the depth of field. You can detect the scene and then recreate that scene. You can go in and clean audience. You can remove silence so you don't have to do room tone anymore. Automatically fills in. You can upscale, images to 4K and 8K. You can desaturate and add color. You can do different transcripts of all the audios. You can do different subtitles in different languages. You can go in and do automatically a dialogue replacement, motion tracking, green screen stuff. This is one company, okay? So this is one company. And then you get into companies, if you look at, and again, it's just, there's so much of this stuff going on out there. So when they talk about how, what we're going to be using AI for, you'll see that they all say the same thing. There's tons of articles out here about why are you going to use this? Well, you're going to use it for writing and, to increase efficiency and to do all the heavy lifting. And they talk about all the stuff. But what you probably don't realize is all the stuff that you're already using. How many people have iPhones? Most of us. Or if you don't, you might have a Pixel or an Android. All of those things have AI built into it. The portrait mode on the iPhones, how do you think that's done? HDR on phones, how do you think that's done? That's all AI, okay? So you just got to realize that. But here's what I want to show you. If I go into Google and I type in, so now you're seeing this. One of the things you may notice about my Google page is look over here. Okay, these are AI tools that automatically pop up when I do a Google search. And so I said, what are the ethical issues with AI? And so I'm using GPT. I could use ChatGPT-4. I could use Claude. I could use Bard. I could download any of these. There's all kinds. If you go to the Google website, there's all kinds of AI tools that you can download for free on this. So here's ChatGPT. It saw what I asked the question of in Google, and then it gave me all these things: bias and fairness, privacy, transparency, accountability, job displacement, security, ethics, data. So it is a standalone tool on my Google that I'm using. And I could do the same thing with, if I wanted to use any of the text to video things as well. There's search agents and there's all kinds of stuff that you can do on that. So, for me, it's like, again, if I was typing in things and not finding the answer 9 times out of 10, I could look over here and the Chat GPT would give me a pretty concise overview of what I'm looking for on that. If you look at this one, and here's, we talk about, how it's changing everything. This is what's happening in cinema robotics. We talk about cameras, the focusing, all the new cool auto focusing stuff on cameras, the phase detection, all the new Sony stuff and the eye tracking. It started out with you could track a person's face. Now it was like you could track the person's face even if they left the scene and came back in. Then it was like, well, I can track the face, but I can't track the back of the head. Then you can track the person, and then you can track the person, but you can't track my pet. Then you can track the pet. Now you can track objects, and it's auto tracking. So all that stuff is AI. You touch the screen now on the camera, and it goes, okay, I'm going to focus on that, and it's going to follow that wherever it goes. And the focus is incredible, better than I can do, and I've been doing this for a long, long time. So, you know, it's the same thing here. This is not a high-end, you know, camera robotic system. This is the small robotic system. This is a very, very small robotic system. It's almost like having a slider, but it's the first world's first AI powered pan, tilt, and slide unit. So you can say to it, here's what I'm looking for, and it will automatically set up all the parameters for you, including talking to the camera and setting up the focal length. And you can do it with multi-feeds, you can do it with, you know, multi-controls, product shots. You tell it what the depth of field is you want it to be, you tell it what the, you know, what you want the focal point to be. It automatically takes care of that. Okay, so you can do product shots, you can do repeat shots over and over again. And this is about $3,000 for the, you know, slider system on there without the camera. So it's pretty cool. This is another big company you've never heard of before, but this is the one that is, again, these guys are changing the production management in Hollywood. So if you start looking at some of your clients who they do, you know, it's just pretty much everybody. They just signed a deal with Fox. They did a deal with CBS. They did a deal with Warner Brothers. They just, you know, and so they're doing all this stuff. Not only and these guys are looking at like the, you know, once you are developing the show. Now imagine I saw an interview with this guy, and it kind of blew me away. What he said was, if we go to a company like Warner Brothers and they have this library, they have a data set already of all these films, and they have all the budgets and they have all the schedules for all these films. We take all that data and we jest it in, and the next time they want to do a film like that, they use AI to go in and create the budget and the schedule, and it does it in a fraction of the time for a fraction of the cost, you know, and it's more precise than if it was done by a person. So that's the type of stuff that's going on right now. And then once the film is done, they, you know, can take that out and look at it. These guys are also doing things like in cast. We talk about casting right now. You know, we look at the different ways that AI is being used in film and stuff right now. And one of the things that we talk about is, you know, in pre-production, you got storyboarding, and there's all these softwares. You've got casting. And one of the things that you may not realize is that, you remember the deep fake image video of Tom Cruise that was famous, you know, out there? It was a company called Metaphysics who did that. Well, the creative artist agency just hired Metaphysics to come in and see if they could start creating data sets of their actors, so the actor sports talent, so they didn't have to go out and actually do the commercials. Once they had the data sets built of the actors and the sports people, then they would be able to use those to create the commercials. This is creative CAA. This is like the big agency in Hollywood right now. So it's happening right now. Location scouting. I mean, you may not realize this, but there's a guy named Shane Hurlbut. If you don't know who Shane Hurlbut is, he's a DP. He was a DP on Terminator. He was the DP that, what's his name, went off on in the Terminator, the English guy. He went on there.
Bale, yeah, Christian Bale.
Christian Bale, the audio guy, recorded the whole thing, and it became a viral internet thing. Well, you know, Shane has a training site called Filmmakers Academy. And so he was one of the first people. He does location scouts using the Insta360. And so the cool thing about the Insta360 is it uses AI technology. So once you get the footage back, you can analyze that footage and come up with the measurements. And while he's out there in the field, he can also communicate and send that footage to other people. Movie magic budgeting and scheduling. Right now, I hear there's a report that they're in negotiations with different studios to analyze the budgeting and the scheduling of different feature films that they can import in to create a data set. And then there's we looked at which one did we look at? Did we look at runway? Yeah, runway was the big one. And then in photography, there's two things going on in AI that you should be aware of. One called computational photography, and the other called algorithmic photography. And so computational photography is things that you're seeing right now, like the portrait mode in iPhone, or in your, if you got a Pixel, the Pixel does this incredible low light stuff at night, so you can shoot at night in very low light without really having much it takes lots of different pictures and puts them together. And so you see that all the time. That's called computational. And then you got algorithmic, and that's where you're actually, the camera's going to start suggesting things to you. So you're going to start framing things, and the camera's going to go throw up a golden ratio and say, hey, you might think about using this golden ratio as composition and framing. So it's going to help you frame different things. You also see it in like Adobe Cincy AI that is in Lightroom and Photoshop, where it can recognize the content of the images and then automatically go through and apply edits, so you can go and cut out the ums and ums and stuff like that. And you see it in Skylum, and it's all in every kind of piece of software that you can look at. But in photography for us, it's going to be image enhancement. It's going to automatically determine what resolution you need to shoot at for what you're shooting at, and what focal length you need to shoot at, and what depth of field you need to shoot at. That's all coming down the pike, and you're seeing little bits of it being doled out right now. And then real-time feedback is the big thing about composition and framing, where you're going to get into that. So there's all these different things that are out there, and if you're not aware of some of the tools that are out there right now, you really just need to go out there and start looking at tool sets on this. And there's text to graphics, there's music generators, there's I looked at AI rap generators, I looked at, realistic image generators, I looked at, AI apps that would restore old pictures to new. There's a great app out there. You take your cell phone and you walk around an object 3 times, like a person playing a guitar. It automatically makes a 3D model of that for you. So there's all these great new pieces of software that's out there that are doing all this stuff.
So you can tell basically that you're ready to retire and just let the computer do it for you.
Yeah, and this is one of the ones. This is a LUT generator. Again, you talk about creating passive income stream. This is a LUT generator that you go in and do this. And so we're already seeing manufacturers like Arri. Arri has their own LUT generator. We're meeting with Sony next week, and that's one of the questions I'm going to have for them. Do you guys have your own LUT generator? Do you have a piece of software that will allow you to do that?
Okay. So we're getting a couple things on questions. I think for what you're saying, we probably could hit for what you were talking about. Can I get it to write a jingle for me for the commercial I'm shooting?
Sure.
Yeah, basically, but you have to watch out, because you have to make sure you're using one that is, basically, is it imitating something else? Is it drawing from other streams? Is it sampling? You really have to read the fine print for where you're getting stuff from, because there have been court cases where they've been saying that because of the way the source was used, that the artist that used the AI could not claim copyright on there. So after this, let's see, copyright concerns using AI generated content on filmmaking and photography. How should we, let's see, are there any concerns associated with the use of AI generated content in filmmaking and photography? Yeah, it is the copyright that we're talking about. That is the big thing, is because a lot of people are talking about, where did this stuff come from? Where did the AI learn it from is the question, because that's what has to be looked at, is it's learning the predictive test on there. Can you give it a chord and a flavor of the company? Yeah, there are things out there that could, but again, you have to watch out for the source, because here's an interesting thing, Professor Baker. This is the one thing I love, is somebody made a comment on here. Let me go back and look at it. Let's see. Jason Turner said David Fincher will probably be using this stuff. Basically, it's already being used.
Being
You
used,
just don't
everybody uses
realize it because no, we're not into Q&A yet. I want to make sure we hit that because Dandy, you've got to go, and I'm going to
yeah.
warn the affiliates. We're going longer than 8.
So yeah, that's pretty much it. But I
But
just want you to realize that there's all these tools out there, and so you need to start looking at tools. And there's all kinds of stuff. And one last thing before I go, if you haven't thought about this, and this was one of the things I did recently, especially if you're in documentary films, I thought, well, I wouldn't it be interesting if I went to like some of the art film funds and said, okay, what kind of videos are you guys looking for? And I typed in a bunch of prompts into there, and I said, okay, here's some film grants that people are looking for. Can you help me find out the best grant for this type of film? And it came up with like all these different things. I was just like, oh my God, this is like amazing. Came up with the concept ideas and stuff. And so if you haven't used AI to go out there and look for film grants and money, this is a whole nother thing. Okay, that's it for me.
okay, so addressing the Fincher thing, because Andy, I want you to use this as a lead in. Basically, there are things out there right now already where they're using the motion control, the style, the sliders, and everything, but there's still a dolly grip that is pulling the dolly along with all this stuff programmed in because they're following the actors that are going to go at a different pace for each take, and it's still needing the human element that got asked. So, with that being said, Professor Raut, now that we have talked on this thing, you have the best advantage because now you can not only talk about what you want to talk about, but you can comment on everything you agree or disagree with us on it. The floor is yours, sir.
Why, thank you, gentlemen. First off, I'm going to hold on. First off, I'm going to keep mine really short and pithy. AI is cool. Don't fear it. Embrace it. I'm done.
Oh, no, you're not. You
Um,
talked about stuff that you heavy lifting.
Yeah, we talked about a lot of great things from a tool standpoint and how important it is. But I want to take a little different direction with this. First off, I use AI in audio post-production every day, okay, in a number of different areas. But I really want to start by how I came to AI. Okay, as all you know, I've been doing this 40 years. So, I'm to the point where, I wouldn't say I'm old school or a purist in any way. But, I was sitting around and my younger son comes up to me and says, "Hey, Dad, what do you know about Chat GPT?" And so right there, alarm bells went off when he is talking about writing papers and stuff. So we had a little discussion about, Chat GPT and what it was, you know, and then the topic came up in our staff meetings. Okay. So, then I started, my investigation into AI because, prior to that, you know, when Mike said in the beginning, we've seen AI in science fiction since the 60s to 2001 with HAL, and certainly to, Terminator with what was it, Skynet. Okay, so we have this idea or perception of what AI what is. Okay, so I started looking into it, because I was curious. I wasn't alarmed or like the sky is falling or anything like that. And then, progressively, I would be getting these um, posts in my Facebook about music creation and all these gargantuan libraries, and put in your search criteria and we can find the perfect piece of music and this and that. And being a composer, with dwindling budgets and all this and that, and that's why AI, I'll touch upon how AI is really important for staying relevant and competitive. So, you know, the more I started getting into it, I realized this isn't something to fear, but it's something to embrace because it's not going away. You know, AI is not going away. So I saw a quote, and it stuck with me, and it said, AI is not going to take your job, but somebody who understands and deploys and uses AI will. Okay, that's something really to think about. So, you know, that's kind of bouncing around in my head. And so, you know, like Randy, you know, we've been doing this a long time, and it's just like, yeah, dude, you're not retiring. The word retire is not in our vocabulary.
But
I keep
Richie
trying to
said,
explain that to my wife. There's no
You
such
know,
thing as retiring in this
so
industry.
so as long as we want to put food on our table, we have to learn about AI. We have to embrace it and use it to leverage our careers to stay relevant and competitive. Okay. So again, the more research I did, it's like we're using AI all the time, even when we're not even knowing it. You know, when you buy something and shopping suggestions come up, well, other people bought this or bought that. You got facial recognition, you got all of that. That's all AI. Okay. So when I was thinking about it, then I started doing a little deeper dive into the AI tools that I'm using, you know, and it was very, very fascinating, and I found tools for one of the big tools I use is Isotope RX. It's the 1,000-pound gorilla, industry standard for dialogue cleanup. And without going into a long dissertation, you take your dialogue track, and it has an AI repair assistant that will analyze it and can determine what is dialogue and what is background noise. You know, that's pretty crazy. So, you know, the more, you know, study, it's like, then I thought, well, what is AI? Okay, we're throwing around AI, you know, in very general terms. And Randy was talking about it, you know, earlier. When we think about AI, it's simply the ability of a machine to imitate human behavior. And then, you know, we do the machine learning, but the big thing is you can build an AI algorithm tool. That's not the hard part. The hard part is training that tool. So you'll see a lot of AI tools out there that do a lot of similar things, but they're not all created equal. Okay. And what separates them is how well they are trained, the human input, in order for the algorithm to statistically compare patterns and rules to then take your input or your prompt and spit out an output. Okay. Then as we go a little deeper into the neural networks, that's like our neural networks in our brain, because that is deep learning where they're trying to replicate how the brain works. So when you hear all about the neural networks in our brain and all the synapses, that's what this deep learning thing is. And so I was looking at plugins and all the various plugin manufacturers, and they're talking about using neural networks, not machine learning, deep learning neural networks to do dialogue analysis and cleanup. So then, you know, it really becomes a matter of being trained. So as I'm learning all about all this, I feel more empowered and less afraid of it, and realizing, you know, we throw this term around, heavy lifting. Okay, Randy gave an excellent example of heavy lifting for script writing. I'm also a music composer. So when I think about the budgets for scoring music for independent film, they're minuscule. So if I had a client that wanted an orchestral score, I can't compete, because how can I would lose money. So along comes this program called Ava, and I think I saw it listed. And what it is it's an orchestral composition platform. If I wanted a piece of music in the style of Beethoven, Mozart, Prokofiev, Tchaikovsky, I put that in. I give it some more granular prompts like 5-minute, minor key, and then what it does is it spits out a MIDI file. Now, one thing we'll talk about a lot is the human touch. We can have AI generate and do the heavy lifting, but there are so many things AI can't do. So the fear of AI and robots and everything, if we get to the point of Skynet, it's pointless anymore, right? But right now we're decades away, well, maybe a decade away, from getting to that level. But you will never get rid of the human element, because there are some things, even with quantum computing and a cajillion different solutions, there's still that human element, and people want to deal with people. People want to, creators, we are wired to create, and we're wired to create with each other. So when we think about the whole AI and the heavy lifting, back to this music example, if I get a film gig that's asking me to score, what I'm going to do is I'll go to this Ava, I'll get an account, I'll put all the cues for the movie, the tone and everything I want. It'll spit it out, but then I will still take that and put it into a DAW. But let's take it a step further. So this AI creates the orchestral score. Now, wrap your brain around this one. You print out all the parts, and then you go hire an orchestra to perform it. So you can have AI do the heavy lifting of the composing, but the human element and the expressiveness comes out from the conductor and the players. So that is a great merger of AI and the human element. Other apps, I'm also a sound effects editor, sound designer. So when I work on a movie and I'm tasked with doing backgrounds, now all of you who have had me and know the soundscape activity, we talk a lot about backgrounds and Foley and sound effects and all of that. Backgrounds are the most important part. They're the most understood because they create the mood, they create the location, the context. So there's a program called Krotos, and they've analyzed backgrounds and broke them into 4 major components, and then you can, with your mouse, create a recording and create the background, and then that'll put it right back into your timeline. So I was kind of joking with Mike the other day about, I have an ice cream example. Okay, we all like ice cream. So if you like a sundae or a banana split, if you've ever scooped ice cream, you understand how hard that is, right? Versus how easy it is to squirt whipped cream and cherry and nuts and all that, right? So make the jump that AI does the scooping for you, but you still have to tell it what type of ice cream you want. And then it'll scoop it. You want big scoops, little scoops, and then you top it off the way you want it. There are a lot of other analogies like that we can use, but from a competitive aspect, because we're talking, this as a tool and as the freelancer, how do we leverage it? We've talked about a lot of great things, but you all are going to come to AI in your own way, you know? And the more you come to it your own way through research, and you're going to own it. You're going to own it. You're going to command it. And you're going to know, well, ChatGPT is a different algorithm than deep neural networks, than machine learning, and how each one is a subset of the other. Okay. You'll come to that, but you'll also realize that AI is not perfect. It will never give you the perfect result, because we want to tweak it, you know. And I was thinking the other day, Mike, when we're talking about writing, let's think about comedy. So you say to ChatGPT to write me something funny. Well, comedy is the hardest thing to produce because it's personal and it's regional, and it's, you know, so things people think are funny in the South, they don't think are funny in the North, stuff like that. So everything that we use AI for, at some point, we're going to tweak it. So we talked about the quality of the prompt and the training. So the more information, deep neural networks will train themselves. Okay, they will train themselves ultimately. That's the direction we're getting at. But most other stuff, we have to continue to put quality information, and that's when we make the jump to the whole generative and the copyright and all that, you know, issue. But you have to decide, is it easier to use AI and then have to tweak it, or is it easier just to do it by hand and get it done? And somewhere in the middle lies the truth about how we will come to implementing AI. As I'm a seasoned pro, so to speak, but when I think about retiring, it's just like, I ain't retiring. So I need to use whatever tools I can to stay relevant and competitive. But I wanted to just leave you with just some things that AI can't do. It lacks genuine emotional intelligence. We think outside of the box. We connect unconventional dots that you know, the computer might think, you know, it can create patterns and stuff, but when we look at it, we have a sense of being able to connect things that appear unrelated. There are no morals or ethical. It's just computer. And the thing is, AI can produce art and music, but in our creativity, breaking the mold in our creativity is what, you know, we can't lose the humanity side of it. You know, I can talk technical aspects all day about how I use AI, but I think when we think about technology, you can't lose the human side of it, you know. And one thing I also want to touch on is, okay, so let's say a video editor says, oh, well, I don't need an audio guy, I have AI to do this, that, or the other. It's just like, okay, great, but when you get the result that AI poops out for you, if you don't understand the art and the craft of what we do, you're not going to be able to tweak it. So you have to divorce yourself from AI being as a replacement tool for some other discipline, if you will. So like in the hands of someone like myself or Randy and AI, it makes us even better and more competitive. So I don't want you thinking that like I would never think in a million years that if I got all the camera and image AI that I could replace Randy. You know, that's ludicrous to think that. But if you, I mean, if you put that all into perspective, I think it gives you a little more, a little healthier and less fearful perspective of AI, you know, because, you know, the sky's not falling. But remember that AI isn't going to take your job, but somebody who understands and uses AI will. Okay. So that's kind of my take on it. I don't know, any, you know,
So
I'll
we've
throw it
had
back,
some
I'll throw it back to you,
questions.
Mike.
We've had some questions come up, and I just want to throw, based on what we had, and kind of bring it back on the whole know the rules. We've thrown out some technical terms that you may not know, especially with Professor Raut with a DAW, digital audio workstation. Basically, we have to still think about the ideas out there. And I'll give an example going back to the writing and to most of the stuff. That reason why a lot of things are being heard about is because there are content creators out there on YouTube that are basically banging the drum, going, this is what you should be using. This is what you should be wanting to do. And there was one that was banging the drum on something where it could analyze your video on YouTube and break it down into YouTube shorts and then give a description, but it also analyzed the power of your video. Where was this effective? Where wasn't that effective? And I had one, I went, okay, let me see this. And I dropped it in, and it gave me one video where it ranked me down, and it said, well, if you would have covered this, 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 and this, you would have a more effective video. And I looked at it and went, that's the part you cut off that was 10 seconds earlier on this short. On there is exactly what you, as the AI, cut out. So basically, no, I'm not going to sit there and go, you told me what to do, I better fix it. I recognized, no, what you're telling me is what you saw and removed based on your algorithm. So that's the trick, is really finding that balance. And I'm going to give a little bit, a kind of quick history on something on technology. Basically, there's always a cycle. There's always going to be a loop. There's always going to be come back to this. And I'm going to give it on sci-fi. They worked for months to figure out the motion control that we just talked about was an AI thing for Star Trek the Motion Picture to give us the warp effect. When they did the Next Generation, they worked out being able to do the stretch using a model for the warp, which eventually became the computer generated models that would use that, because they were like, we can just go into computer on here on this one. But now we went from motion control to different models to computer generated, now back to present day, where a lot of people are discovering they need to still make the physical models, shoot shots with the physical models, and then use those to emulate in the computer. So they're right back to physical models, right back to puppets, right back to animatronics for things, because there is a balance. Sometimes it goes too far and it comes back. And yes, science fiction eventually becomes science fact. So I wanted to bring that up as we get into questions. And I've seen this question pop up a couple times. How do we recognize if video is real or is AI created, for example, in the news? And I want to just say one thing real fast. This is one of the reasons why you have photographers that have to type in when they capture that great shot of the lightning, this is not photoshopped. Sometimes you can't, but let's throw it out to Andy and Professor Baker. What do you guys think on that? How do you recognize it? Neither one. Anytime.
It's kind of
Both
hard.
of you silent? What the heck?
That's unusual.
So yeah, it's becoming more and more ubiquitous. But you know what's happening, and you see this with Amazon going on right now with this writers thing, is that most of these sites you're going to have to cite that if you used AI at all. in anything that you do, whether it be image generation or video generation or music generation or writing. You're going to have to cite, that this was created by AI, or in part created by AI. And a lot of the people, unfortunately, we're still at that level where we're still trying to figure that out. Like, I think Amazon was like, even if you do AI to do research for you, to spell check and things like that, you have to still, submit that it was partially done by AI. So, AI checkers, it's a 50-50 potluck thing kind of thing. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But there's some telltale signs for writing that becomes monotonous. And if you use a lot of Chat GPT, you see it's blocky, very blocky stuff. And so you can tell that with AI generated images. Yeah, it's still, we're still a ways off on that, but there are some pretty cool things. If you look at the history of AI generated images, it goes back to the 70s. And when you see the differences between the images over the ages, really not that much of a difference. So it's been around for a while. The AI generated text, video and stuff, getting better, still not quite there. We've all seen that Will Smith thing of the spaghetti and the meatballs. That's kind of disturbing. But it's if you
haven't seen it, basically
Smith, spaghetti
search
and
out a
meatballs,
video, Will Smith eating meatballs, or is it meatballs or spaghetti, Randy? Do you have to type in both?
It'll come up. It's
it'll come up.
Thing. Yeah.
There's some good LinkedIn Learning tutorials on deep fake. That I took one a long time ago, but the thing is, from a creative standpoint, we always talk about give credit where credit is due. The unfortunate thing is the nefarious people aren't going to do that when we talk about deep fake, when it gets to news and politics and all that kind of stuff. That more than anything is what is disturbing or alarming to me.
So is it possible to share a vision with AI and have it generate the image? It's difficult for me to share my vision. So the question is, can you type in the prompt and say, draw me a picture basically, or paint me an image? I think that was some of the stuff that Randy was mentioning, is some of the ones on the animation and the photos.
Yeah, the tool sets are out there to do all kinds of stuff. And again, here's what I want to prompt you guys to really be thinking about. This is at the infancy. There's a lot of things that haven't been thought about yet. So if what I did is I went to, like I was talking about the funding sources, and I thought, there's some funding for sources out there that were looking for humanity style films. So I typed in, what are some good concepts for films based on humanities? And it spit out this entire huge list of things for me, and that I never thought about before. Some of them never thought, well, that's really interesting. I could do a film about that or stuff. So you can prompt it if you're looking at things to give you an idea about what to do and the vision. And so here's one of the things. If you've been through my class, I'm a big person about pre-visualization and emulating other people's work. If you ask any visual artist to tell you who inspired them, they won't give you one name, they'll give you multiple names. And if you go out there and look at those artists' work and then look at that original artist's work, you'll see their work kind of organically appear in that new artist's work. And it's the same thing with AI. You have to use it as a tool to help generate a new vision, and then you take what works for you and what doesn't work for you, and that's where your voice and your style comes in. And if you understand that concept, then you accelerate that process by really leaning into that.
Right. Well, we talk a lot about when we're learning, we model success after success, but there comes a point where you have to develop your own voice. And what Randy was talking about is no different in music. There's so many songwriters and musicians that you can hear other people's style in their music, and it's the same thing. It's an amalgamation of a number of different influences, but it also comes back to the algorithm how well it was trained. Like this Ava thing, the music composition app, they trained that algorithm with thousands and thousands and thousands of scores, from the classical period, Baroque period to current day. So when we're creating that set for analysis, and that's where the cost comes in. That's the expense, the training. So when you work with an algorithm that is highly trained, and then you are very specific in your prompt, you can't say just draw me a picture of a cat. Well, draw me a picture of what kind of cat? Is it a orange tabby? Is it a lion? Is it a lioness? The more you drill down and get specific with your prompts, the better result you're going to get so that means owning your vision and being able to communicate your vision to get that. It's like garbage in, garbage out. Bad prompts, bad results. Then you have to spend a lot of time tweaking, or like what Mike was saying in the beginning, you were talking about, Mike, not starting with a whole new prompt, right? You were just
right. I basically typed in one prompt and then I kept adding to it. But it started off as a simple thing. And as I kept adding to it, there were some things that it just wouldn't let go.
Right. As
Yeah.
opposed to starting over with a better set of prompts to
Right.
get where you want to
Whereas if I would have just taken that first one or maybe a couple later and put it into Final Draft, I could have just gone in and gone zip, 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 zip. Okay, great. There's the stuff that I wanted to remove. But again, Texas style ribs do not belong at a barbecue festival. That's the one I'm still going to laugh at. But I'm going to claim my own fault, because in my frustration, I just kept trying to get it to finally get to my interpretation, where it wasn't going to. It wasn't going to, because I sat there and based on what it said, I knew, okay, great. This is the interpretation. This is what it came up with. I can go in and fix it. But I decided to keep going with the ChatGPT, with the prompts. And by the time I got to 10 prompts, of course it was lost.
Right. Like, for instance, when I do a lot of dialogue cleaning, and I run a track, either boom or lav, and there are other things that I want to keep in there, and the repair assistant will analyze it. It'll put a denoise, de-reverb, de-click, de-this, de-that, and it'll turn it all on at different levels, and then I'll do a preview of it. And I'll think, this sounds garbage. It's making a prediction or estimate of what it thinks I want, how I want that cleaned. So then I might turn off de-click. I might turn off other modules, but then it might not take out enough of the noise. So then I got to go and raise the noise and then do another preview until it gets just the way I want to export it. So that's one thing I think is a common thread. It's just going to do heavy lifting. It's going to get you into the ballpark, but then you really have to put your human touch to it. And if you look at it like that, instead of it being this silver bullet so you don't have to work, and you use that, we were talking about the other day about cheating, right, guys?
Mm-hmm.
Is AI cheating? Well, it's a tool, but at some point you can use AI, but there'll come a time when you really have to deliver, and it's like, so why don't you learn your craft first and then learn how AI can help you out. That's just my take on it.
And there was a question up here, and Randy sort of answered it, but I want to make sure that it kind of made on here. It was, how do you know, there it is. How do you know when you found the right AI software for use as for you as a content creator. Well, take a look at what Professor Baker just put in. He said basically learn how to write prompts. What you're going to find is when you understand the prompts and you try them on different tools, you will then find what is the one that works for you. It's kind of like, a Sony owner versus a Canon owner versus a Nikon versus a Panasonic. It's not really versus, it's what's best for your workflow. And that's what you have to think about it. The ones that Professor Baker is finding is the ones that he has found interesting, but I can guarantee you, Randy, have you used every single one of those in your workflow?
No, I haven't, and so I just compile them all the time. Like I said, I listen to all these podcasts, and so one of the really interesting things about I just got that 101 prompts today, but and I was intrigued by this last week. I followed this podcast called the AI Breakdown, and so as part of the AI Breakdown every day, they give you prompts. And the thing that struck me was from an instructional design standpoint, it was like, here's a problem, here's a resolution, here's the solution. And so it gives you all these, pathways for prompts depending on what you want. So there really is a science to it, and that's I guess what I'm trying to get across to people is you can't just go and type in things. You have to really put some thought and effort into what you it's a machine. It's just parroting back what you're asking. So if you don't ask the right thing, you're not going to get the right response. So learning how to write the prompts is really kind of interesting, and I think that's going to become a science in itself.
I liken it to an interview. I liken it to you're a reporter or you're a documentary filmmaker and it's your story. You think, well, what do you want people to know? What do you want people to walk away with knowing about your story? Then deconstruct it and learn or determine the questions to ask in the process. A prompt is just, it's analogous to a question. What are you asking it? But it's incumbent though on you to know your vision. What do you want? Because if you don't know what you want, you'll get it every time.
And let's see. I got to make a comment on this. If you're Randy Baker, you have every camera from which to choose. No, Randy is selective on things, but I will tell you, there's a lot of options out there, and I love the phrase "you date the body, but you marry the lens" on there.
Okay, but Randy, do you have this?
I do. I have a whole collection of. I have about 7 different types of Fisher Price. I have a whole collection of toy cameras.
Oh man,
they're in a box.
I thought I had you there for a moment.
They made that in 7 different colors, and I have every one of the colors.
Oh man.
Okay, how about this one for the projector?
I do have
8mm one.
Yeah. And you may not realize this, but that one came in a red and a blue as well. So the body was red and the thing was blue.
What did they call the one with the disc with all the images?
Viewmaster.
Viewmaster.
It still exists. But here's what I wanted to make the comment on, because we've had a couple things here. Basically, we have Metropolis influenced many classic films, Star Wars, Blade Runner, AI, artificial intelligence by Spielberg. So AI is doing the heavy lifting. You said, what if someone prompted a script based on an outline from those concepts? That's the problem. If you do that, that is literally sampling, and that is a potential violation of copyright, because you're saying, draw me a script based on based on that. But as a writer, if you sat down and started thinking, what are the things I like story-wise about this stuff? What were the elements that I liked? The idea of AI taking over with HAL, the idea of the space opera, the idea of this, you could potentially do something, but you can't directly use the basic plot concepts of that. So that is a good balancing act, because Andy mentioned it, and there's if you've never seen the mockumentary Spinal Tap, please go see it. And there's a part in there where the guy's going, well, I have this new piece that I'm doing, and I really want to make sure that it really kind of has this extra kind of flow. So it's a combination of Mozart and Bach. I call it a mock piece.
It goes
so it goes to 11. Okay, that's the afterburner. The 11 is a valid thing. But anyway, so let's see. I want to get a couple more in here because we have gone a little bit late on here. So you have to be general, not specific titles. They go to 11. Yeah, it's not that you have to be general, is you have to know what it is that inspired you. Okay, yeah. Like I typed in my prompts based on the fact that I love to do barbecue. So I typed in pitmaster. I typed in Texas style ribs. I typed in arguments. I typed in all these stuff that I've seen, these different things, looking at videos on barbecue, and said, well, what would happen if these kind of people would have an argument over one style of ribs? And that's what it gave me. And then I go in and tweak. So but it comes off of my hobby, comes off of my inspiration on here. So let's see. If I ever have the opportunity, I'll let you finish typing what you, Casey Joe's, is that a content channel? Okay, I'll look it up. I've seen Mad Scientist Barbecue. I've seen Aaron Franklin is my guru of barbecue. But anyway, so, and he's got a particular teaching style, which is great to inspired by, but I wouldn't write a script like he does because I don't talk like that. So if you think about it, you'd have to be, if you wanted to write a script of what we just did here, you would have to put all of the elements that you know of Professor Baker, all the elements you know of Professor Raut, and all the elements that you know of me, but you're only going to have what you've seen in our classes. You're not going to have, oh God, was it Paul Winchell? Or I forget who it was. Paul Harvey, the rest of the story.
The rest of the story.
Page 2.
Okay.
Oh, love me Paul Harvey.
Yeah. So thank you for the tip on the barbecue. Thank you. So to let everybody know here, I'm going to have us wrap up with last thoughts. So this still gives a time, but thank you for the wonderful questions. Basically, the link that I'm going to provide to our person that's in charge of wearedcbs.com is going to have the link, but this chat will not be part of the link. So it will be put in as a separate transcript so that you have all of these links. So don't worry, this will be available to you when the video gets posted on here, because there was a lot of stuff, and I don't want to just say email Professor Baker, because there were some people in the chat that were participants that were putting up some good information also. So I'll make sure it all gets across to everybody. So if you're watching this on the recording, scroll down on there. I'm hoping it gets set up or as a download or something. Okay, so let's start with Professor Raut. Last thoughts. We'll go in class order.
I'd say you're going to come to it in your own way. Embrace it. Don't fear it. Learn how to leverage it. But most importantly, learn your craft first and use it as a tool instead of using it in lieu of just good learning, you know. And I think you'll be able to command it better, and you won't be a slave to it. That's the big thing. We can't allow ourselves to be slaves to technology.
Professor Baker?
Don't let the technology get in the way of the art. You know, that's, right. You know, that's the big thing. And so, you know, Stefan was asking about the future, where it's going to be going in the future, and that really depends on a bunch of different factors. Uh, Technology, obviously, and so this is a fast-moving monster, man. This thing is just steamrolling through, and so technology is going to play an important role on that. We're just now seeing the amount of money that's pouring into AI right now is mind-boggling. It's just mind-boggling. You just don't have no concept. If you were able to look at behind the scenes what all these big tech players are doing right now, it would scare the hell out of you, because they're all in. They took all the chips and when we're all in. So you got to look at technology, you got to look at the ethical considerations, you got to look at societal acceptance. Will there be a uproar from people at some point going, okay, we got to stop AI? You're seeing that already with just what happened 2 weeks ago at the congressional hearing with all the big tech giants. Elon Musk saying, they're all saying we need to put brakes on this right now because it's moving so fast. So all those things will depend on what's going on. But for you need to stay in front of this. You need to start, looking at how AI is going to change our industry, because it is changing and it's going to continue to change our industry. And, it's adapt or perish. That's what it's all about.
Okay. So my last thought is the interesting reason why there is such a big uproar on AI and why people fear their jobs and everything and all this is writers have been presenting the fear of AI since it first came out in the late 50s, early 60s. Twilight Zone, Star Trek, movies. Michael Crichton, who did Jurassic Park, also attacked it. So, for the Halloween episode of the DC Buzz, I do one annually. I am going to be talking about the dark side of AI and how writers have approached storytelling to use the public's misconceptions of AI to tell a dramatic tale. So that will be next month. I'm going to be putting together the information probably in about a week. I wanted to wait and see what we talked about here to see where I could pick up from on that one, but be watching for the information. So I already told Professor Baker that I'm going to use basically the dripping blood from Tales from the Dark Side as the label for it. So Halloween episode of the DC Buzz will be in week as always. DC Buzz is week 4 on Thursdays, and I hope to see everyone there. And I am going to, for the archive, I'm going to end the recording now. Thank you for watching, and we will say goodnight to our live group. So have a good evening.
Thanks for coming out, guys. Good to see everybody.